So welcome back, and this is actually number six. So Oudh Satinado actually was number five, and I think I made a mistake in the counting. So this is number six, which is Indonesian Oud from the house of Yasmin Fragrances. Now, short buy had actually given me this quite some time ago, and I've used this quite well, and I've come down to the last bit, 1 ml. So it kind of tells you that you kind of like a certain fragrance when it comes down to that kind of volume. Now this particular fragrance has got a little bit of bergamot, it's got a little bit of rose notes to it, and it's really got a little bit of a sandalwood note to it as well. But then the way it opens up is really nice. It's got a very nice sweet element to it. It's got that nice citrusy element to it, and it's not very sweet like most of the other fragrances. It is right about there. In terms of performance also, it's pretty good. You get about 4 to 5 hours easily on this particular one, and overall scent profile is good. This is inspired from Indonesian Oud from the house of Zegna. Okay, so I think it's from the house of Zegna, and it's a really nicely done work from the house of Yasmin Fragrances. Performance is good, about 4 to 5 hours. It projects about 1 to 2 hours, and then it kind of settles down into that the base note. But overall, the sweet profile of the scent is pretty decent. It's not very sweet like other fragrances. That citrus element is just about there, and the rose element is right in the middle of it. So overall, a pretty good fragrance. It's also got oud, but the oud is very mellow and light. So if you want a fragrance where the oud is just really at the back end, but a little more sweeter, a little sweeter, not very sweet, a little mildly or decently sweet kind of a fragrance, then this is really good, a good fragrance to try. This is Indonesian Oud from the house of Yasmin Fragrances. So the next fragrance on this list is called White Oud, and this was a recent find from the house of Sirat Perfumes. Okay, now the thing about this particular fragrance is that this is a free sample, and I was pretty surprised at the quality of this particular fragrance. Now I have smelled White Oud from many houses like Bella Vita and Fragrance and Beyond and all of that, but then the White Oud is a very common DNA, and for some reason that this particular fragrance is like not taken very seriously of late. But then on this particular fragrance, if you look at the scent profile, right at the top you have citrus notes, a lot of citrus notes, then you have amber, then you have tobacco, and then that kind of a scent profile. So while this doesn't really talk about rose, it's got rose, but it doesn't talk about oud as such, but it talks about amber, it talks about tobacco, it talks about a bit of a honey, it talks about a lot of this citrus element at the top, bergamot, grapefruit, that kind of thing. But I think if you look at the quality of this particular fragrance, and I was really surprised. The depth of this particular fragrance is fantastic. I mean, it's got a very nice element to that rose, oud and citrus and all of that beautiful fragrance. The blend is too good, and that depth is something to die for. Okay, so the amazing quality of fragrance this is just a small 1 ml I think dab that they have sent, but it really does well. In terms of performance, I think it's about average, about 3 to 4 hours to 5 maybe at most, but even on apparel it kind of fades off after some time, but probably you need to apply a lot. This is for me, attars are pretty new, so I don't really go all out on attars, but I think it will do well because they are pure oils and they will project well. So it does project well. So in the 4 hours that you wear, it does project well, and it got a very good body to that particular entire scent profile. That citrus elements and the amber, tobacco and all of that, they come together really well with that rose element, and I really think this is something that you should definitely try. And you get this about 6 ml for about $5.99 I think on their site, and you can definitely try it for free for 10 rupees plus shipping. Okay, so you can definitely try quite a few from the house of Sirat. So you can definitely try these kind of fragrances. This is from the house of Sirat. This is called White Oud. So the next one on this list is called Imitation from the house of Essential Perfumes. Now this is a house that also belongs to DK. Now this particular fragrance is actually manufactured abroad and then packed here. So the quality is really nice. It's very high class, I felt when I used it, and this particular fragrance is a fantastic blend. This is a take on Oudh's fragrance, right? Now this particular fragrance has got notes of citron, nutmeg, pepper, and then in the middle it's got things like amber, it's got violet, it's got orris butter, and then towards the base it's got leather, it's got patchouli, all of that, and it's got a myrrh as well as an element to it, and that really makes up for something on this particular fragrance. The way the rose note along with those citrus notes, nutmeg, orris butter and leather is blended is so beautiful. This is the most complex rose fragrance that I think I've tried, and I've tried a few right now. So I feel this is one of those beautiful fragrances that you should definitely explore. The performance is crazy on this one. You easily get about 10 plus hours, okay, on skin, and at least 14 to 16 hours on apparel, and projects to at least 2 to 3 feet. So really does well in terms of performance as well. And but scent profile wise, this is something totally unique to try. And this is a kind of a fragrance that you should wear when you go out for a party or something, where you want to wear a leather fragrance, but then that leather note along with that myrrh is totally killing it types, right? So because of that violet, because of that orris butter, because of that slight hint of vetiver, it's a really beautiful take. And along with the leather, this is fab kind of a fragrance. You should definitely try this. This is from the house of Essential Perfumes. This is Imitation. So the next fragrance on this list is called Vetiver de Rose. Now this is from the house of ThePerfumes, and if you've seen my recent reel about Vintage Library, it's the same house that made this particular fragrance. Now this is a 2-note fragrance for me. It's got rose, it's got vetiver, and that's about it. But when you apply, you really feel that there are more woody notes to it. There's a little bit of depth of that woody note, and there is that vetiver. But the vetiver doesn't have that spice element as such. It's very earthy kind of a way, and the rose is pretty light, so it's not sweet at all. It's not jammy. It's a very nice kind of a fragrance where you feel that you are in the middle of a woody environment, and along with that slight rain, that kind of a feeling, you have that vetiver feeling that you get, and then there is a slight hint of rose that is revolving around you, that kind of a vibe. I really like this particular fragrance. In the discovery set that I got, I did like this, and there's another fragrance called Juliet which is very popular, but this really is very nice in terms when you consider rose fragrances. This is not your typical sweet jammy kind of a rose. It's a very light, mild, talcum, powdery kind of a rose along with vetiver, and it brings really very well. It's a very well-rounded fragrance as well. Performance is decent. You get about 4 hours to 5 hours roughly on this particular one. Decent. Projection is about 2 to 3 feet. Now one of the things about this particular fragrance is the fragrances that are made by ThePerfumes are halal perfumes, so to say. So I think the alcohol that they use on this one is good in a way that anybody can use it. It doesn't obstruct you from making your prayers, so to speak. So that is how this alcohol is kind of used in this particular fragrance. So overall a very decent blend, which is rose de vetiver from the house of ThePerfumes, a very budget friendly house. You can definitely try this one. So the next fragrance on this list is called Forbidden Practice from the house of Scentadelic, and this one needs no introduction. This is a take on Ombre Nomade of the house of LV. Okay, so this is a fantastic fragrance. This is pure masculinity in terms of a rose note. Okay, now you get a very dense, dark kind of a scent on this particular one. You have things like incense, you have birch, you have amber, you have rose, okay, and you of course you have oud as well. But then I think the way this is blended, it becomes like a very dark fragrance because of that incense note. The way rose and the way oud comes together is really nice, and it's also got, like I said, it's got birch, so it becomes like this very cloudy, dark, dense, that kind of a fragrance. If you're going out for a party, clubbing, this is the kind of fragrance that you want to wear. Really beautiful fragrance. Scent profile is nice, performance is nice. You get about easily 3 feet plus 8 hours at least on skin. A beast mode kind of a projection in my opinion, and I think as time goes, the juice becomes more darker and denser. Look at this one, and it really is like very appealing, and this is one of my favorite rose fragrances, no doubt. So this is like a really masculine, nice rose fragrance to try. If you want a good take on Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade, then this is one of them to definitely to consider. So this is from the house of Scentadelic. This is Forbidden Practice, a beautiful fragrance for that dark masculine rose note that you would want. The next fragrance on this list is called Promise from the house of Indian Perfumery, Mehdi Hassan's house. Now this particular fragrance is a take on Frederic Malle's Promise. Now what really surprised me about this particular fragrance is I tried this initially when he had sent it to me, and that time I felt the rose was really at the bottom, it was playing very mellow. But after a few months when I tried it, I realized that this is like changed so much in terms of the maceration and in terms of the way it projects. So for me right now, this particular fragrance feels there is a rose element right at the top, and there is a lot of green herbaceous notes. Now this has got things like patchouli, it's got green apple, it's got labdanum, and it's got ambroxan. So with that kind of a note, It's also got a little bit of pink pepper. It's also got Turkish rose. But the way it kind of builds up, it feels like you're walking into a garden where it has rained and there is that smell of wet grass. And along with that, when you smell a rose, you kind of get that sharp feeling of that rose with that maybe the thorn or maybe the stick of that rose, where when you smell it up close, it has got that greeny vibe to it along with that rose fragrance. That's what this is reminding you about. So I kind of really like the way this kind of brings about. So it's got a little bit of sweetness to it. It's got more ambriness to it, and because of the labdanum and all of that, it really makes up for a very nice little bit of a herbaceous vibe. Very beautiful fragrance. So you should definitely try this from the house of Mehdi Hassan's house. So really good fragrance, a lovely light classic take, unisex kind of a fragrance that you can wear at any point of time. A beautiful fragrance called Promise. This is a take on Frederic Malle's Promise, and like I said, if you will get that herbaceous note, you will get that wet grass, and then you will get a fragrance where you just pluck the rose. That's the kind of a feeling that you will get from this particular fragrance. This is Promise. Okay, so the last one on this list is called XP198, which is a take of Rose of No Man's Land from the house of Byredo, and this is from the house of Excellency. So this has got raspberry bloom, it's got roses, it's got pink pepper, it's got amber. Okay, so that is the kind of scent profile you're going for. But I think this is one of those fragrances that Excellency has made really well. I got a partial from another fragger and he has used some, and this is one of those fragrances that he definitely recommended me to try when I said I want rose-based fragrances. Now this kind of feels like you're walking into a garden of rose. This is something somebody had described as well when they had tried this particular fragrance on one of the posts as well. So I really feel it is that way. It's a sugary, sweet, that kind of a rose. That raspberry blossom is like, or raspberry bloom is like there, and then you also smell that ambery note to it. But overall, it's a very sweet, scented, very well, rounded fragrance. And one honorable mention I would like to do on this particular list is from the house of tons of fragrances. This is Nawab of Oudh. Now, I received this just today and I did one spray and I really like the way this particular rose fragrance opens up, but I was not able to give a full wearing. So that's why I've not included this in the list. But in my initial wearing, I kind of liked it. So, a pretty decent fragrance to try. I will do a review of it, in the time to come. So this has been my list that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I've been looking at rose fragrances for the last 2-3 months, and then I've understood that a simple note as rose can have so many different variations, like a dark masculine variation like Ombre Nomade, or more incensey, smoky leather incense kind of a fragrance from Imitation Man. And then if you look at a very sweet, lovely, all-time lovable fragrance like Oud Satin Mood, to things like Rose Benny from the house of Rouhaniyat, which is like a very jammy, sugary kind of a rose. So there are so many variations of rose, and I think this is something that you should definitely try. I hope you like this particular video where I've covered a lot of the fragrances in both attar and spray formats, and these are all rose fragrances, and this is a beginner's guide to rose fragrances. Of course, there are plenty of other rose fragrances that I would want to try, like Moschino's Toy Boy and a lot of other fragrances that I would really want to try and probably bring them on another video. But for now, I think this is a good beginning for somebody who wants to look at rose fragrances. So on that note, if you like the video that I bring or the content that I bring, please like and subscribe. And you clicking that subscribe button really makes a lot of difference in terms of motivation. So please do that. My name is Rodney. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye now.